Chapter 25 To the Rescue, Part 2. Alex turned down the car radio in anticipation of hearing Cookie's idea, but Cookie didn't seem to quite get the hint, and all anyone could hear for a long moment was the rumble of the Porsche's engine and the resonance of the tires on the road. "Well?" Alex finally demanded impatiently. "You can't just say something like that and stop." "I don't know how to ask this," Cookie dawdled, unsure of how all of them would feel about their once mortal enemy asking them a personal question. Finally, she asked Eric, "How far does, your ability go? I mean, if you hit your funny bone in one room, would I feel it in another?"
"I don't know," Eric replied casually, as though the question wasn't personal at all. "I never really measured it, but the stronger I feel something, the further it goes. Lena once told me that when my dog died 2 years ago, she felt something in her house, and she lives a block away."
Kara nodded, adding, "Once I understood what he could do, I sometimes feel him all the way across the school." "But you and Lena are both special and, super sensitive," Cookie said, then looked at Alex. "How about us regular people?"
"It's the same for all of us, I think," Alex replied. Then she laughed. "Sometimes when I feel like shit, I blame it on him."
"Okay," Cookie began. "Did you ever think of using that power against Lex?"
Eric shook his head vehemently. "That wouldn't help at all. The angrier I would get, the more dangerous Lex would become. I mean, I probably shouldn't even be here on this mission. I could only make matters worse, but I have to do something to help Lena."
Reminding Eric about Lena and Lex immediately accelerated the heartbeats of everyone in the car, giving Cookie a clear example of his power, and she motioned for him to settle down. "I'm not talking about using your power that way. What I was thinking was maybe using your power to bring out the good feelings in Lex."
"I doubt that ass has any good feelings,"
Alex responded with an anxious laugh. Cookie flipped her joke around. "Then maybe you can give him some feelings that he's never felt before."
"I don't think it works that way," Eric said more calmly. "Besides, I don't think I could feel anything nice about him. If I see him, I'll just want to kill him, and that won't help."
"Yeah, I'd feel the same way," Cookie nodded. "But I wasn't saying that any of us should get anywhere near him. I mean, maybe we don't need to confront him at all. And if we can just get near him, but someplace where he couldn't see us, then you can send out some good vibes, and maybe he'll give up his insanity." Eric shook his head again.
"Good vibes wouldn't do anything. Calm feelings don't travel."
"I wasn't thinking of calming him down," Cookie said, rolling her eyes, frustrated that she had to spell out her idea in detail. "I was thinking of maybe doing something like what you did in the car a few minutes ago with Kara, or like what you guys did in the biology class."
"No fucking way,"
Alex responded immediately, apparently ready for this idea.
"I mean, it's like asking Kara to undress before him."
No, he wouldn't even see anything," Cookie started. "I think the only person who would feel exposed is Eric." Alex did not like that idea any better.
"Yeah, okay, but you are suggesting that Kara get undressed in front of Eric, then?"
"It's not like it would be the first time," Cookie replied, dismissing Alex's obvious jealousy. "But she doesn't need to get undressed. It was amazing what she did to him when she was back there in the car with her clothes on." The car swerved slightly, making everyone stiffen. Alex pulled off to the side of the road to give this outrageous idea her full attention. She tried to ignore Kara's curious eyes because Kara wasn't clearly as upset by the suggestion as Alex wanted her to be. She didn't have to look at Eric to know how he felt about it. Instead, she stared right at Cookie, saying,
"It's not fair to make Kara do that. She's not a tool. Why don't you play around with Eric if you like the idea so much?"
Cookie was taken aback. "I wasn't suggesting they have sex or even make out. Maybe just hug each other." Cookie turned to ask Eric. "It's obvious that when you're close to Kara, you feel good, right?" He didn't immediately fess up or deny it, so Cookie turned back to Alex. "I could never do for him what Kara can do. I don't have those pheromones or whatever you said she had." Alex looked like she was about to explode until she looked at Kara, who was watching with such concern in her eyes that Alex settled down. Finally, she asked, "Would you want to do this? I know it's crazy, but if you want to do it, well, it's okay." Kara shook her head. She wasn't objecting to the idea. She just didn't want this conversation to go on anymore, because it was upsetting Alex so much. The bucket seats of the car and seatbelts prevented Kara from surrounding Alex with her arms, so she reached out and surrounded Alex's hand with her own. "Then it's up to you," Alex told Cookie decisively. Cookie sighed sadly. "It's not the same. After all the stuff I've done to Eric and all of you guys, I just don't know how Eric would ever respond to me the way he does to Kara." The girls all fell silent, recovering from the bombshell of an idea Cookie had dropped, when Eric said, "Does anyone care what I think?" Everyone stared at him as if surprised that he'd have an opinion. He always seemed so calm, deliberately controlling his emotions, that they forgot that the effort was for their benefit, and it did not mean that he didn't care. Kara nodded reassuringly. "I'm sorry," Alex said. "Of course," Cookie added, putting her hand on his ankle in a weirdly reassuring gesture. "Thank you," Eric said politely, then turned firm. "I'm not someone you could press a button to make happy, or radiate freaking niceness like some magic spell." Then he looked at Kara. "Yeah, I like you a lot, but I can never feel good knowing that it would make one of you hate me." He turned to face Cookie. "And yeah, Lena was right. There is something different about you, and maybe we can be friends, but we're not there yet." Finally, he turned to Alex, saying, "And while we're already friends, I don't think you could ever feel close to anyone besides Kara." Then he added, with a wicked smile, "Besides, you're not my type." Alex rolled her eyes. "Oh, excuse me." Cookie laughed and Kara joined in, reassured that it was okay to laugh. "Do you always say what's exactly on your mind?" Cookie asked Eric playfully. "He's usually super quiet like Silent Bob," Alex replied. "We like it that way." Eric stuck out his tongue, but Alex didn't see it as she started the car engine again. The car tires threw up sand and the car accelerated on the breakdown lane and re-entered the empty highway. They would not mention Cookie's idea again as they sped through Long Beach. The silence was getting awkward as the gravity of what they were doing crept back into their minds. Kara saved them from further worries by cycling through the radio stations again. She stopped on a song by Rihanna, and she and Alex locked eyes for a second, then started singing along. As the name suggests, Signal Hill is a tiny city situated on a hill. They drove to the higher ground and got out of the car and took in the view below. There was sparse vegetation and tree cover on the hill, so once their eyes adjusted to the darkness, they could see for miles under the near full moon. They could make out many roads and landmarks, and the lights of the city beyond were beautiful to behold, but they saw no signs of law enforcement or criminal activity. "I swear the cop said Signal Hill on the phone." Alex prepared to defend their plan should this all prove to be a big waste of time. "I heard him too," Kara agreed, "and the lady on the phone said—" Kara trailed off. "Well, it doesn't look like—" Eric began. But Kara raised her hand to stop him from talking, then she pointed out into the night. Everyone's eyes followed her finger to a patch of land beyond the lights of the city below. After a moment of focusing, they all saw the flicker of red, white, and blue lights streaming a line outside the city. "That's it!" Eric pumped his fist excitedly, for the first time believing that maybe they might see Lena again. They jumped back in the car and Alex drove like a madwoman to catch up with the entourage of cops who were a mile away and were a moving target. But Kara wasn't losing sight of them as she kept pointing the way like a compass. And fortunately, the roads were mostly straight and parallel, so Alex had no trouble following Kara's direction. Even so, the 16-year-old driver had trouble handling the car in the darkness at 75 miles per hour, and of course, more than once, it felt to the passengers in the back seat like they might careen into a ditch or guardrail.
"Geez, be careful,"
Eric demanded from the back seat when the car seemed ready to spin out after hitting a patch of sand on the road. "Don't worry," Kara reassured calmly, holding onto the roof of the car with her right hand. "I won't let us crash." Even knowing that Kara was Supergirl, Cookie wasn't very reassured. She was sure the convertible top would just rip off if Kara grabbed it too hard, but Cookie decided to trust her anyway. Cookie was more concerned about what would come next. They had planned on how to get there, but not what to do when they arrived. Her friends had ridiculed her plan, but they had offered nothing to replace it, and now they needed to plan on the fly. Soon, everyone could see the police lights parked up ahead on the side of the road. When they were about a third of the mile away, Cookie said firmly, "Pull over." "Why?" Alex said reluctantly. "Do you want to drive up to a bunch of cops and FBI agents and explain what we're doing there?" Alex thought for a moment, then pulled behind some tall bushes. The four wannabe heroes exited the car. Alex pressed a button on the car keys to lock the doors, and the car alarm started blaring, and headlights flashed. "Oh shit," Alex said, dropping the car keys in a panic. "I'm sorry." Cookie calmly picked up the keys and pressed the alarm off. "Don't worry about it. We're still a ways off. I'm sure nobody noticed it." They walked away from the road, hoping not to be seen by what was quickly becoming apparent as a swarm of cops, agents, and even some soldiers from the National Guard. There were only a few trees and bushes to hide their approach, but so late at night, the cover of darkness was plenty to prevent discovery. All of the commotion was focused on a wide single-level building that looked as secure as a bunker, so it was clear that the authorities were only concerned with what was inside, not with anyone approaching from the outside. Besides, the intruders quickly discovered that the facility was already defended by a large electrified fence, which could normally discourage anyone from sneaking around. The fence barely even slowed down the heroes, since one member could easily transport her friends to the other side. The space between the fence and the building was mostly empty, except for 3 parked cars in a space reserved for about 20. Even with just the moonlight, anyone looking in that direction would clearly see someone sprinting from side to side. But nobody was watching, except for a few security cameras. Kara melted those, and then they hurried across. Now they were near the rear of the building, but there was no sign of a door to enter by or a window to look through. In fact, all they could see was a long wall built of 30 inches of concrete, reinforced by steel bars within, all covered with plain white chipping paint. This wall was designed to withstand a heavy bombardment, maybe even a nuclear attack, so long as it was not at ground zero. The only entrance to the building was at the front, where the men with guns were, and reinforcements were being added by the minute. There was no need for the forces to be anywhere else, since presumably nothing could get inside from anywhere else, and nothing could get out. "I don't know if I can force my way into this," Kara concluded, as she admired the unimaginative but highly effective fortress. "You underestimate yourself," Alex reassured. "Well, assuming we can break our way in," Cookie said, "we're gonna need to know where Lena and those bastards are." "Can you see inside?" Alex asked Kara. "It's not easy," Kara replied, staring hard at the building. "The walls are very thick, and I think this is lead paint, but I can see stuff that looks like blurry shadows. 2 of them are moving, but I can't tell who's who." Cookie suggested, "If you see shadows marching around, those are probably the good guys. Look for any shadow that's not like that." Kara was shaking her head, until suddenly she stopped and stared intently. She walked alongside the wall until they were at the very back of the building. Here, several men are standing by 2 men who are chained to a chair. Lena is standing by a very thick metal door, I think. Cookie raised an eyebrow. That doesn't sound like a blurry image. Kara nodded and explained. Because they're right behind this wall. I mean, if there was a door here, we could jump right into the same room. Eric, who had been keeping his cool until now, suddenly blurted out.
Then we can save her. You can just punch your way in, right?
Kara bit her lip and looked at her fists that suddenly seemed tiny. I don't know.
No, you can't.
Alex insisted.
You just said,
Eric began, frustrated. Alex interrupted to clarify.
Maybe she's strong enough to pound her way in, but if they are on the other side, maybe she would hurt Lena too. Besides, you forget that Lex has a gun that can kill Kara.
Everyone fell quiet after the initial enthusiasm.
Then what can we do?
Eric finally complained.
How about the roof?
Cookie suggested.
Can you see any way through the roof? Maybe if we drop in, we can sneak up on them.
Kara floated a few feet until she could see the whole roof.
Some large metal pipes are sticking out like chimneys. Maybe we can climb through? Okay, let's try that,
said Eric impatiently.
Well, let's at least look at the pipes,
Alex said more cautiously. Kara nodded. She lifted Alex and carried her up to the roof. But when Kara turned around to get Eric and Cookie, she suddenly ducked for cover as several lights on top of poles switched on and flooded the whole exterior of the building. Alex peeked over the edge of the building and saw several soldiers marching double time towards them. In a few seconds, they would all be caught.
They're coming,
Alex whispered loudly to Eric and Cookie below.
Hide somewhere, and we'll see what we can do up here.
Then, Kara and Alex crawled away from the edge of the roof, out of sight of both her friends and the soldiers. Cookie and Eric ducked behind an old F-Series Ford pickup truck, but they knew immediately that it would not be enough, so they climbed inside the bed of the truck and laid down beside a few heavy boxes that were covered by a tarp. They pulled the tarp over themselves just as the soldiers rounded the corner of the building. The soldiers came to a stop right beside them. Cookie and Eric were laying face to face, terrified to breathe.